Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's video, I've got 2 recipes to share with you, perfect for Easter, springtime, Mother's Day, or any occasion. We're going to do a 7-layer salad and then a hummingbird bundt cake. So if you're looking for some Easter recipes, keep watching. First step for the 7-layer salad, I saw it was just a picture. There was really no recipe for this on Pinterest. I'll link that down in the description box below. But like I said, there wasn't a recipe. So what I did was I took my pea salad. I've shared it before on my channel, but I took the pea salad and then just kind of added to it. So I'll put that down in the description box below for you. Here's everything that I'm going to use for this 7-layer salad. Feel free to substitute if there's a veggie here that you and your family don't like, or if you've got something else on hand, totally swap it out. I've got romaine lettuce, grape tomatoes, sliced cucumber, shredded cheddar cheese, grated carrots, sliced radish, some cooked bacon, frozen peas that I'm going to defrost. You could use fresh peas, especially if you can get them from like your garden or a farmer's market. That would be really good. And then I've got some hard-boiled eggs. For the Easter shapes, we're going to use some sliced American cheese. That's what the person that had this idea on Pinterest suggested using. And then for the dressing for the salad, I've got some mayonnaise, salt, pepper, sugar, milk. I'm going to start out by making the dressing. I'm going to do it in a measuring cup. You can use a bowl if you want to do that. So I'm going to add in the mayonnaise, followed by the milk. And normally when I make this layered pea salad, I make the dressing a little looser than what the recipe calls for. And I wasn't thinking this time I shouldn't have done that because as you'll see in the final product, the dressing started to like fall down the salad a little bit, which is fine. But yeah, if you can do the dressing according to your preference. Just know that if you do it a little loose like I did, it might, start to fall a little bit. But we're going to add some salt, pepper, sugar, give that a really, really good whisk, set that to the side. Now, this is the Easter part of the 7-layer salad. On Pinterest, I saw where this lady had taken some cookie cutters and cut some springtime shapes and put it around the bowl. And I thought that was cute. So here I've got just these little cookie cutters. I'm using an Easter bunny, a little duckling, a butterfly, and a flower. I'm just going to cut those out, set those to the side. And then here's what they looked like once they were cut out. And don't worry, the little cheese remnants did not go to waste. I used them. Now, I have this trifle bowl. I'm going to take the sliced little shapes and put them around the bowl. And this actually worked really well. The American cheese stuck to the side of the bowl really well. Once I've done that, I'm going to add in my romaine lettuce and then continue to put the little shapes around. Now I'm going to add the shredded carrots. And when you do a 7-layer salad in a bowl like this, you want to make sure that you're making the side that you see pretty. So you want to take your time and, layer everything, kind of push it to the side of the glass again so that you can see it. And there's no real rhyme or reason to this. Just layer it however you want to layer it. I added the grated carrots, the sliced radishes. I'm adding the peas. And then I'm going to do some of the grape tomatoes. You can cut these, but just keep in mind if you cut the tomato, then the seeds and the juices might come out. And I didn't want to add any moisture to the salad. So I just did a ring of the tomatoes around. And then in the middle, added some more of the romaine lettuce. I'm going to take my hard-boiled eggs that I sliced and layer those, followed by the cucumber. And like I said, feel free to use whatever vegetables you want. And I call this a 7-layer salad. I did more than 7 layers, but who's counting? Now I'm going to take that dressing and spread it over top. And then we're going to add some shredded cheese. Really, you could add whatever cheese you want. But I like shredded cheddar, and especially with Easter, I thought the orangey yellow was pretty. Now I'm going to add some chopped cooked bacon and then some of the remaining little shapes on top. Cover this, and then you want to pop this in the refrigerator for at least a couple hours. You can make this the day ahead. And this is what the top looked like. Once you're ready to serve it, give it a really, really good toss. And this salad is so delicious. It's so yummy. And like I said earlier, feel free to switch out vegetables or the cheese, bacon for whatever you like. And of course, if you don't want to do the cutesy, little shapes, totally skip that step. This is still a delicious salad, perfect for Easter, like some Mother's Day or any occasion. Great to take to get-togethers, baby showers, bridal showers. So yeah, just really great recipe to have in your repertoire, in your recipe box for really any occasion. Next, we're making a hummingbird bundt cake. Now, I've had hummingbird before. I love it. It is delicious. If you've been with me for a while, you know if I eat a dessert, I really want a fruit-based dessert. So this ticks that box for me. But I've never seen it in a bundt cake. And I think bundt cakes are so pretty. And so when I saw this, I knew immediately I wanted to make this for Easter. If you're not familiar with a hummingbird cake, I believe it originated in Jamaica, I think, and then became popular here in the South. It is like a spice cake. It's got a little bit of spice to it. And when I mean spice, I don't mean heat. It's got like cinnamon and warm spices, banana flavored, pineapple, either pecans or walnuts, and then usually a cream cheese icing. So I'll have the recipe linked in the description box below for you. Here are the ingredients I'm going to use. I've got ground cinnamon, allspice, all-purpose flour, baking powder, baking soda, vanilla, ripe bananas, some salt, oil, pineapple, and we'll talk more about the pineapple shortly, eggs, butter, cream cheese, powdered sugar, regular granulated sugar, brown sugar, sour cream, milk, and then this recipe and a lot of recipes call for pecans, which you can totally use, but I've got walnuts on hand and I prefer walnuts anyway, so that's what I'm going to use. Now, I've got the oven preheating to 350 degrees. The recipe did suggest you first toasting the nuts at 300 degrees and then bumping your oven up, but I just toasted the nuts in a dry skillet on top of the stove. I'm going to start out by mixing my dry ingredients. So to a bowl, I'm going to add in my flour, baking powder, baking soda, cinnamon, allspice, salt, and then I'm going to give that a really good mix and set that to the side. Now, while I'm doing that, a quick note about this recipe. So it says to use a 10 to 12 cup bundt cake pan, but I was just making this for us, and so I thought I would have the recipe and then use like a 6 cup bundt cake pan, but as you'll see in a minute, it was like full to the top, so I ended up transferring it to another pan. So, you know, just keep that in mind. As you see the ingredients here that I'm using, I'm having the recipe. Now we're going to mix up the wet ingredients, and I forgot to mention when I showed you the ingredients, you want to make sure that your eggs, your sour cream, and your butter and cream cheese are all at room temperature. All right, make sure they're at room temp. Okay, so in this bowl, I've got my egg. I'm going to give that a really good mix. Now I'm going to add in my oil. And I accidentally got just a tiny piece of shell in there, so I'm going to pick that out. Now, for the pineapple, we're going to take a little bit of pineapple juice. I'm just using the juice from the can and add that. And then I'm going to add in the sour cream. Again, make sure this is room temp. We're going to give that a mix. We're going to add in the granulated sugar and then the brown sugar. Now, I'm sure you could use sugar substitutes if you would like to do that. I personally don't use them, but you could totally substitute those here if you want to. Another really good whisk, and then I'm going to add in some vanilla extract. Whisk it again. Now, you could do this in a stand mixer if you want to, or you could use a hand mixer. I'm just using a whisk. Okay, so I told you we'd talk about the pineapple. So this recipe says that when she, tested and tried this recipe, that she determined that she preferred to use like pineapple chunks or tidbits and chop them up roughly herself. I had crushed pineapple on hand, so I was like, that's just what I'm going to go with. I would definitely make this again, but I would highly recommend you listening to what she said and chopping up the pineapple. The crushed pineapple just gets lost. So once I've added in that pineapple, I'm going to add in my mashed banana, give it a really good whisk, set that to the side, and then we're going to add our wet to dry. Now, what I like to do is add my nuts in with the flour. My granny taught me this trick. If you mix, nuts, raisins, dried fruits in with the flour, it helps it not just sink to the bottom of the cake. So I gave that a quick toss. And like I said, I did toast those nuts in a skillet on top of the stove and then just gave them a rough chop. So you'll want to mix that together, but be careful, don't over mix it. You'll end up with a dense cake. So just mix it until it's just combined. Place it into a very well greased bundt cake. Bundt cakes, they have a lot of grooves, so you really, really want to make sure you take your time and grease it really well, especially that center ring. So this is going to go into the preheated oven. Again, it baked at 350 degrees, and I baked mine for about an hour. You want to bake it until it starts to get golden brown, but more importantly, a toothpick inserted into the center of it comes out clean. So once your cake is done, you're going to want to allow it to cool on a wire rack in the pan for 1 hour. After an hour, then you can run a little butter knife along the outside and the inner circle and invert it. And then you want to let it cool for another hour before we frost it. Now we're going to make the frosting. So to a small bowl, we're going to add in the room temperature softened cream cheese as well as the room temperature softened butter. Now again, you can do this in a stand mixer. I'm just using a little hand mixer here. I mean, you could do it with a whisk if you really want to get the arm exercise in. So you want to beat that until it is really nice and fluffy, and then we're going to add in some vanilla extract. And then the recipe didn't call for this, but I added in just the tiniest pinch of salt. I mean, not even 1/8 of a teaspoon. Salt just enhances flavor. Now I'm going to add in the milk, whisk it, and then here you can see I just took a spatula and scraped down the sides. Now we're going to add in the powdered sugar. Once I added in the powdered sugar, again, give it a really good whisk until it's well combined. If you need to add a little more splash of milk, you can do that. Also give it a taste, and if you want to add a little more powdered sugar, make it a little more sweet, you can. So we're going to just kind of half pour, half spread the frosting onto the cake, and then you want to take a little of the leftover remaining crushed nuts and sprinkle those on top as a little garnish. And this is the final cake. I think it's so pretty, and this cake was delicious. Like I said, the only thing I would change about it is to use the chopped pineapple next time, because the pineapple, me using the crush, did get kind of lost in the cake. But this cake was delicious. It was so good, and I feel like the banana flavor was perfect. It wasn't too banana-y, if that's a word, but it also had enough banana flavor to where you could taste it. And Gary and I thought the spice level was perfect. Wasn't over spiced, but it wasn't, you could definitely taste the cinnamon and the allspice. So I would highly recommend you give this recipe a try. All right, that is it for today's video. I hope that you liked it and that you will give one or both of these recipes a try. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And if you will celebrate Easter, I hope you have a very, very safe and happy Easter.